deputy executive, Fred Jarrett, undertook a study of sort of the way we're delivering services as a municipal government relative to cities around us, and realized we weren't doing a great job relative to cities. And in 2019, the executive and the council formed the Department of Local Services, and we sort of exist to be your local government in unincorporated King County. And part of that was a reorganization of some existing county departments. So the roads department and the permitting department were put under the aegis of the Department of Local Services. And then we have a number of ways to sort of coordinate all the other departments in the county to try to deliver services in a more coordinated and thoughtful way. I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But, you know, since we've been in creation, we've tried to do some things here. One of the things I worked on myself was the light that's right out there in front of the senior center after we had a really bad accident out there where someone lost their life. There are garbage cans now in downtown Vashon. That's something that we worked on. We now have crews that are coming through doing some litter control and cleaning in the business district. We're trying to work on signage for special events and get something in place that works for everybody. It's that kind of stuff. It's just little community stuff that knits things together, and we try to be more responsive to what we hear from folks. We're not perfect yet, but those are the kinds of things that we're doing. There are flyers in the back. So I would love it if you all would take one of these and take the survey associated with this. Has anyone taken this survey yet? Yeah, there you go. All right, there are a few of you. It's not a short survey. Is that fair for people who took it? But it's not terrible either, is it? Okay. Yeah, okay. It's important because this is going to be the foundation of the community needs list for Vashon. For the Vashon-Maury Island Community Service Area in which you live, this will be the foundation of the community needs list. You will say to me, John, what is a community needs list? And I will say to you, crowd, it is the articulation of the things that you want to see happen in your community, enumerated and then prioritized. And we're going to start with this survey, and then we're going to do more work in community to prioritize the things that come up on this survey. And that will feed into the next biennial budget process. So we did one during the last biennial budget process, but I don't need to ask you to raise your hands again. Most of you didn't know about it. That's on us because we didn't have a lot of time to put it together. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. We were trying to respond to a global pandemic. But this one, we have a lot of lead time. We have good thinking going on how to approach community around it. And we're going to get a lot of input from community. What that will do, for the first time really ever, is give the unincorporated area, all 250,000 people who live in the unincorporated area, the ability to articulate what their priorities are for where they live, and then have departments react to that. Let me just give you an example. The Parks Department does a lot of programming here and all across unincorporated King County in collaboration with the Park District here. But when they go out and they do community engagement and planning, they're doing it countywide, including the cities, because the Parks Levy is funded by all of the cities in unincorporated King County. They view themselves as a regional park district. They're not focused exclusively on the unincorporated area. So this is a real opportunity for people who live on the island to say, these are the things that are important to us that may not have gotten captured when you did broad community engagement to all 2.2 million people in unincorporated King County. This is targeted at the 250,000 people who live in unincorporated King County in all of those community service areas. So really want to see people. We have 55 surveys from Vashon thus far. I'd like to see a lot more surveys than that before we're done. Those are my updates. I am happy to field questions, comments, Barb, remarks from anybody. Yes, sir. Yeah, sure. Come on up. Oh, I'm getting the asphalt. Thank you very much. May I receive this asphalt?
County Council. Okay.
So could you explain where this came from, Jeff?
That piece of asphalt came from Southwest 204th Street between 111th and Old Mill Road. That road was paved 40 years ago. Macadam layered, probably half a dozen layers, built up. And then after that, no more layering. I talked to Jim Diederiksen about the road 30 years ago. He used to be our road department division manager. And Jim told me that it would be a long time before they would put a chip seal layer on the road. And of course, that was a long time ago. And it has not been layered since. And 30 years ago, the road, it had like washboards in it, if you will. It was just, it was in need of another layer. And anyway, so that never happened. And then it just continued to deteriorate. And it has since been patched over and over again. That's a piece of it there because the patchwork won't stay put. And anyway, this goes on, and now the road is just, it's just busted up, and they're patching the patchwork, if you will. So it's a mess, and it's destroying our vehicles, and especially those of us that have lighter weight economy cars. It's just wrecking them. And the people that drive the big rigs, they probably don't care. But anyway, I've been sending letters to Joe McDermott. I talked to him. He was here on the island before COVID. I asked him if he gets much mail, and he said he gets some. But anyway, I sent him, I've sent him letters, several of those. And anyway, I have not heard any response from Joe. And then I have some bulleted things I wanted to make sure that I brought up here in the meeting. Okay, I'm going to skip those. And before you leave tonight, John, can I share with you a request I want to make to Aaron Moe? He's our manager now.
Awesome.
Okay, well, that's cool. I wrote a letter, a picture of what needs to be done on Old Mill Road so that we can get access through it.
Yeah.
And so, okay. Okay, so maybe we can okay, well, I'll see you on the way out.
Yeah, do that.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Really appreciate that. You finally got your paperweight.
I will share with the community council. Yes, sir. Yeah. Wait. I have the microphone.
This is just what they.
Okay, all right. Hello, Mr. Taylor. My name's Doug Hoffman. I don't know if you know who I am or not. Okay, I have a question since we're on the asphalt and he happens to show a picture of that, is about the use of wrap or recycled asphalt pavement on Vashon in Acara or even over town in Acara. My question is Icon used approximately 11% wrap in the 2018 overlay project for the Vashon Highway. King County Deeper has determined that wrap cannot be used in Acara where King County Deeper has jurisdiction. Is that your understanding?
So Doug, you and I are engaged in litigation, so I'm not going to be responding to any questions from you.
Okay, well, I'll put it, it's very close to we're done.
Let's talk to your attorney. If you have questions you want the county to answer, you can do it as part of the discovery process, but I'm not going to answer the question.
You don't have to answer them. I'm going to ask I'm going to say what I'm going to say though, and you don't have to say it. I'll say it to Diane. Okay, Jim Chan was asked in a previous community council meeting. Okay, I can do a statement. Okay, whoever you are behind me. It was a community council meeting that Jim Chan said, the reason why it could be used in a CARA is because the company doing the overlay was a professional company. So my question is that you're not going to answer is, can we determine on who's a professional company and who's not? And then we'll find out, I guess, whether it can be used after this case or if it's just only me that can't use it. That's as much as I have to say.
Thank you, Doug. Is there anyone on the Zoom call that would like to have a question for John Taylor? Raise your hand with your yeah. There he is. I'm not seeing anybody raising their hand. So again, people in the room, there's someone behind you.
Take that one. I'll take this one.
You don't know you're the right person to address this. We came today because we live very close to the entrance of. And there is a homeless encampment. There is a number of homeless people living at the entrance of Central Forest. And we are wondering if there's something that is in your department to address. Is there somebody else in this meeting that will be addressing that?
So what we would do, and thanks for bringing it to my attention, and I knew it was an issue in the community because I'd heard about it, but there's a King County Regional Homelessness Authority that does outreach to all, so everything has been consolidated through the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. And their mission is A, to do outreach to folks and connect them with services, and B, try to connect them with housing.
So who do we contact? Because those people have, they've been there now for weeks, probably a few months. They are harassing our children. They are harassing our neighbors. And
Okay.
It's quite unsafe now to pass through there. I live right next door, and I know there is at least 4 other neighbors here that came today just for that reason.
Can't hear what is being said.
Sure, I could speak loud. I'm a
Yeah.
teacher. So, okay, so there is a number of people living, homeless people living at the entrance of Central Forest. They have been harassing our neighbors, including ourselves. We have a number of community members here who live right at the Rosebellen community. We have reached out to the sheriff's office. We have some letters. We have called daily. We don't know what else. Children cannot wander anymore in our neighborhood.
And
They're being
barely
harassed.
hear.
Well, I don't know what else to do.
Just keep.
So it's been a real problem. We have teenagers on their bicycles that have been harassed. We have elders that have been urinated on. We have a number of incidents. Again, we reported, we call, we write letters. We don't know what else to do. It's a very unsafe situation. They're cooking. They don't have any bathrooms, so they're using the facilities right there. Actually, they're happy to do it in front of you if you walk by late at night when they're intoxicated. So it's really a problem. And we really don't know who else to reach out to. So we came today with the hope that you or someone here can give us some direction, some assistance. Thank you.
You're not alone. I would just say that after transportation, probably the next biggest issue we confront is there's an enormous amount of homelessness in rural King County right now. And we have a tremendous encampment on Green River Road with about 150 to 200 people living there right now that we're trying to manage. I would say if people are doing things that are threatening, call 911 and the sheriff will absolutely respond. Removing encampments, that's the province of the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. And I mean, if they aren't already aware of this from your letter writing campaign And the sheriff's office, and maybe the sheriff can speak to that, I'm happy to raise it with them and have them send somebody out here to sort of contact the camp and see what's going on. Happy to do that. But I just want to be really clear. I've got, I don't know how many in our jurisdiction camps like this. There are many, many, many of them right now that there are a whole bunch of people trying to move the folks from living unhoused to being housed.
They are at the entrance of King County Park. I mean, what is it that we can do? What is it that King County can do about it? They're actually pretty much at the entrance of a public park. Is this anything that King County can reinforce?
Unless they are in jeopardy themselves. So from King County Parkland along the Green River, people have been removed because there was a threat of them drowning in a flood. Those camps were relocated, but otherwise Parks is not removing encampments right now. Yeah, sure.
To make clear, it sounds, John, like this is not, doesn't necessarily fall within your ambit, but if there were a concern about community safety, this could be a sheriff's issue and to contact law enforcement.
Give it a shot. Can you all hear me online? Not if you can. Okay, good. If anyone ever feels unsafe, call the sheriff. Like, don't wait around. Just call the sheriff, call 911.
I need to have other people speak. There are lots of other people who want to say something. Can I get? Sorry. And could you please share your name? Sure.
Is it on? Nicole Elizondo Hopper. We did in fact call 911 and the police showed up about 25 minutes later. Okay. Yeah, we have been calling 911. Victoria and I called and the police showed up about 25 minutes later. And they didn't really do anything. There was a minor involved. This is why we called 911. And by the time they got there, the minor had been moved. So, and I know a number of neighbors have also called the police.
So, Armin, you have your hand up. Would you like to speak?
Yes, Mr. Taylor, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Great. I appreciate that you can't make comments because you're in litigation, but a couple of months ago when Jim Chan was at this meeting with Mr. Hoffman not present, he made some very nasty, denigrating, disparaging comments about Mr. Hoffman. And I'm wondering how that comports with the supposed professionalism that's supposed to occur at these meetings and whether he's going to pay any consequences. I know you all make around $200,000 a year. It seems very unprofessional the way he behaved when the gentleman, Mr. Hoffman, wasn't even here to defend himself. I don't know if you're aware of that, but they were very nasty comments. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so not aware of the comments, haven't seen them. If there's a record of the meeting, if someone wants to share them with me, I'll review them. And if I share your opinion of them, I'll have a conversation with Jim, because we always want county employees to be courteous to the public. I tried to extend that to Doug. It's just, there are rules about what we can do here, and I can't answer his question. And I'll happy to look at if there's a recording of the meeting, happy to look at Jim's comments and see if my opinion matches with yours.
I believe there was a recording, and my recollection as a witness was similar, consistent with what Mr. Hoffman just said, that he was making, Jim Chan was making comments that Icon could do thus and such because they were a professional company, implying, more than implying, that Mr. Hoffman's company was not professional. And there were other disparaging comments. So yeah, take a look at the record and see what you can do about it, because I personally, knowing Mr. Hoffman, found it very troublesome, very unprofessional.
Okay, I will.
And Armin, I will find that recording and make sure John gets it. Okay, so we have to move on. I would like to just take one more question from the audience. You've spoken already. I'm sorry. We need someone who hasn't spoken yet.
You know, there's quite a few of us here that live at Rosebellin, and I just want to give you guys a little bit of the history. We actually built our houses. It's a sweat equity housing. We value our home, our environment, our surrounding. And now we are dealing with certain individuals that are coming over and using our land for their bathroom facilities. And they're dumping in their garbage, and we're being harassed, and we need to be in a safe environment. We need help. We need the Parks Department to come out more often at the entrance, you know, to the right side of the road where the garbage cans are, and pick up the garbage and the sleeping bags. And we've taken lots of pictures. I will show you the bathroom area where all the toilet papers are and all the poop. And I actually had one guy that actually pulled his pants down in front of me and took a crap. And that is not respecting me. You know, I work hard and I've been homeless. So don't tell me about homeless. I've been there and I know what it's like. And I put myself through school and I got educated. And now I have a lovely home and I want to keep it that way. And I want our community to be safe, you know, please. And I know some of these people that are here are homeless, but please respect us and our living environment. And we want to be safe to go in the Center Forest. I worked on Center Forest. I helped cleaned it, you know, prune, and I go out there on a regular basis, cleaning up the garbage and stuff. So it's very emotional for me, but.
And your name, please?
Lynn. I'd rather not say.
Okay. Okay, well, it's a very, we're gonna have you speak later, okay? So we're going, because you can speak during the sheriff's office time. All right, so we have to move on. We have a tight agenda and a lot of people want to share their thoughts. And we can always revisit this. We can always come back and talk about this again and come up with some ideas on what we can do. And I think that John Taylor, what he told us tonight about the King County Regional Homeless Authority is the first place to start. It sounds to me like that group has not been brought in, and that would be a good place to begin. What's that? That's a great idea. Invite them to a future meeting. Okay. So thank you, John, very much. We're going to move on now to Sergeant Kirsten Whitaker, and some of this will be part of his discussion as well. So we're not quite done with this yet. So Sergeant Whitaker, there you are. Wonderful. Would you like to
good
join
evening.
in?
I'll take a thumbs up if my mic is working. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. I see a thumb up. Great. Well, I'd appreciate if everybody could pretend I'm wearing boots, because I'm actually at home on the clean carpet. My wife would kill me if I brought the boots in. So let's just maintain this costume, pretend here that I'm in full uniform. It feels a little weird. I just wanted to introduce myself. I work for the King County Sheriff's Office. I'm the supervisor for your patrol units out there on Vashon. I work with my boss is Captain Drazich, who normally attends meetings like this, but his bandwidth is quickly shrinking as things increase elsewhere. So I've offered to kind of take on the lead role as Vashon's point of contact for the sheriff's office. I worked there as a patrol deputy 10 to 15 years ago. I've been a detective on that side, handling occasional cases out there. And now, as I said, I'm the patrol supervisor. I just want to give a quick rundown of what you have. And anybody who's lived out there, it's been the same for a long time. I'm probably preaching to the choir. But whether you see them or not, you have 2 deputies in marked cars on your island 24/7. We've got cycles of shifts, and we always ensure we have at least 2 deputies 24/7 answering 911 calls on your island all year long. And a lot of these problems that I'm hearing about can't necessarily be solved, but should at least attempt to be addressed through calling 911. 911 is free. My guys out there have the luxury to be able to dig into these problems. Many of them work White Center, Burien, Skyway, Seattle, other high crime, different cultural areas. So they are used to working city type of places, but they enjoy the beauty of Vashon and the rate and the people. One of the trade-offs for that kind of good view that you guys have out there is I expect them to work hard, and they do. So don't be bashful about calling 911, even if something seems like maybe not an emergency or something that you might not think fits the threshold of police services. These days, we're just as much about service coordination as we are about enforcement. So I'd be delighted if you would just be glad to pick up that phone and call us. The worst that can happen is the call will be screened as maybe not a police issue, or we might have you referred elsewhere. But if there's one takeaway, it's just that we are listening to your problems. There are always police out there, and we are a phone call away. Now, how the response times, I aspire for those to be quick, but believe it or not, sometimes things do happen out there. We have some unfortunate bad apples here and there with drug problems that keep my deputies busy. We have some domestic violence issues where they might be protecting families from others and each other. As Victoria and Lynn, folks out there on Roseballon and the Center Forest, goodness, I hear you, and my heart goes out to you. And when I said my troops work over in Burien and Seattle, you talk about a unhoused problem addiction situation. They are certainly used to it. So this is not new to them. But unfortunately, the laws that kind of overarchingly control those things are set by values that are set by the voters in all of King County, including, the Seattle area and the other side of the water. I know that's a bit of a struggle for you folks to have the values of across the water shoved on you because you don't have as many numbers. I respect that, and I'm trying to tiptoe around it, but I just wanted to give you a wink and a nod to let you know I respect the fact that you have your own culture out there that you deserve to preserve, and we want to respect that. But the way that we balance compassion and enforcement with the unhoused population and addicts is dictated by a bigger King County group. And we really won't be able to handle things in Vashon much differently than we would on the side of the street in Seattle, unfortunately. And as you know, they are struggling. They are leaning towards compassion, which all of us are for, but it lacks some of the enforcement options that used to keep the sidewalks and the streets a little clean. So we are sorting through that. But again, I go back to, if you think something is dangerous or is making you feel unsafe or gets to the level of the things that I believe Lynn spoke of, please just call 911, give my guys a chance to at least get there and try to address the problem. The days of taking homeless people with drugs on them to jail to solve the problem for 24 hours are long gone. We can't even arrest people really for drugs anymore, to be honest with you. That's not how the county has decided to handle addiction. So the policing style is different than you might have seen in previous years. It's just part of the reform of the last couple of years. The pendulum has swung to trying to give these social services a chance and trying to really lead with compassion rather than enforcement. So there's not a lot of enforcement options, but there's no reason you need to have someone doing something lewd, rude, something with children, the dirty, unsafe situations that are actually touching you and getting to your property. Is please just give us a call. I will quit rambling here. Those are the main things I wanted to get out. Just that the Roseballon community and the frustration with that camp out there. These are the same frustrations that I'm hearing on the other side. And all I can do is encourage you to give us a chance to come out here and at least try some of our skills or references, or at least add up the complaints so that it carries a certain weight when things go to vote, or when things get to agencies like the King County Regional Homeless, when we can show those numbers. So I will go ahead and shut up for a minute and open it up to the floor. But my main thing was that I wanted to invite you to call 911 and introduce myself as the supervisor for a great group of deputies out there who understand the subtleties of working out there and are looking forward to serving you. Over.
Thank you very much. that's very, very helpful, what you've shared. And now Tanya has wanted to say something for a long time. And so I'm going to give her an opportunity to speak. Tanya is one of the unhoused people, and she is doing her very, very best to make things better for everybody.
So, my name is Tanya Takaki, and I graduated in 1993 from Vashon Island High School. I grew up here and worked as a builder and a landscaper since I was 13 years old. I'm taking care of a man with a broken ankle on that road. His name is Davin Hiley. I'm his advocate. He has also recently quit alcohol. We're trying to find another place for him. And instead of people complaining, it would be really helpful if people wanted to become involved in solutions to try to find safe places and create advocacy for people that need help. I'm willing to talk to anybody who wants to come by and have a conversation. I'm very friendly. I've met wonderful people on that street, wonderful, wonderful people. They're compassionate on that street who want to participate. I would like to have a big community meet and greet, a fundraiser, but we're looking for a fiscal sponsorship. Also for people to help with information and ideas on what can be done.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Yes, Art.
Hi, thank you. My name's Art Chippendale, and my wife and I live in another Vashon household. Okay, I'll have to speak louder and close to the microphone. So my wife and I live in another development from Vashon household. And there was a time, though, in our lives when we lived in a trailer in the woods. And it wasn't pleasant. And I have a certain empathy for those who are homeless, in the sense that it's not just a law enforcement problem. It's a social and an economic problem. These people aren't homeless because they want to be homeless. And in fact, their lives and their minds are made so complicated by the fact that their anxiety, their own anxiety, it creates a kind of overwhelming cognitive disassociation. They're not able to think the way we think. So we have to simply be cognizant of that when we are trying to deal with them. These people they're not there because they like being there. And if and certainly, the idea of taking a crap in front of somebody, that's a statement of anger. And so you need to understand they're very angry about where they're at. And they really would like help, but they don't know how to ask for it. It's incumbent on us as a community to come together and help these people. We have an organization, a wonderful organization on the island called the Interfaith Council for the Homeless. And that's really a good place to start because they provide meals and every day of the week at the Methodist Church, 5 days a week. I'm sorry, every day. Yeah, not including the weekend. And we need to come to a solution. We do need to find a solution for this. The county homelessness, and I can't remember the authority, right? In most of the county, they provide entry points into the program. We don't have that here, and that's something we might advocate for, is provide us with a person who can help to bring these people into the system where they can find help and get housing and get treatment and the kind of medical and mental, for the mental issues that they have. I understand, okay, so I understand your frustration, but let's get the community to work together. Thanks.
Thank you. Now it's time to go to the Zoom call. Sorry, I have to go to the Zoom call. You have to share the audience. So Oz, your hands up.
Oh, hi, everybody. My name's Oz. I live in downtown Vashon. And I'm not going to address the issue at Rose Ballin, even though I do walk through that area myself on almost a daily basis. But I want to talk to the police officer about motorcycles on the island. We live here in downtown Vashon, and recently I've been hearing and woken up by motorcycles going at very high speeds. And you know what it sounds like. I can hear it, this motorcycle taking off from the stop sign here on, at Bank Road. And you can hear them for the next 2 or 3 minutes, and they're still accelerating. I would hope that the officers that are on the island might do something about that. Can he respond to that? It seems like motorcycles do not have any enforcement of speed or etiquette.
Hi, thank you for the question. Yeah, Sergeant Whitaker here. There has been an increase in motorcycle speeding across the county. And it is something that my deputies enforce. While I'm at this, let me jump to a quick little thing I meant to say earlier. We've received speeding complaints, not just about motorcycles, but also vehicles downtown and just throughout the island. That's gone up in the past couple months since I've taken more of a Vashon interest. And we've directed our deputies to do more speeding enforcement, including getting radars. Nobody likes getting tickets, but we noticed it was a bit of a problem, and some of you might notice some additional traffic stops on streets that you didn't see before. But I'm seeing the statistics of my guys doing a lot more traffic stops than they used to historically, including those of motorcycles. A lot of warnings being given. We're not trying to charge people money or necessarily write tickets unless that seems to be the way we need to go. But you are going to see a lot more traffic stops and a lot more increased speeding enforcement in that area. The only thing about motorcycles is if they choose to run, part of our reform recently is we do not pursue, nor are we allowed to pursue fleeing vehicles unless there is an element of violence beyond the recklessness of the infraction. So unfortunately, a lot of rebellious motorcycles have learned that when a cop gets behind them, all they have to do is speed away, and the cop, by policy and law, has to turn his lights off, pull over to the side of the road, and write a report. So unfortunately, that is something we're dealing with. So when you ask if we're enforcing it, yes, we should be seeing these things. We should be radaring the major roads. We should be responding to your calls. You can feel free to call these in as you've heard the sounds or seen them zoom in front of your businesses or homes. We can do area checks or park in your area, run radar, do enforcement. But sadly, there's not much we can do if they decide to rebelliously speed away from us. Our hands are tied in that. But I still think there's a lot of good to be done by the ones who will stop for us, and just the presence. And usually once they see a police officer, they don't necessarily initiate that type of behavior. So if I can get my guys and girls a little more visible, hopefully that will be a deterrent. But I just wanted to educate you on the new pursuit policy or lack thereof. And I'd be glad to take this to training throughout the precinct and let them know that citizens are noticing an increase in motorcycles specifically. Over.
Now we are at a very important point of our meeting. And what I want to do is ask the people who are here if you want to extend tonight's meeting. If you do, we will do that and we will continue the discussion. But it's up to you, the people who are here in this meeting, if you want to do that. So I would entertain a motion to extend the time of the meeting so we can continue the discussion. For how long? I want a time. Till 9:30. So it's been moved to extend the meeting to 9:30 so that we can have more discussion. Is there a second to that? Okay. All those in favor of extending the meeting to 9:30, please raise your hand. And online, if you'll also raise your hand to extend the meeting. And I'll have to have someone help count these votes. Raise your hands, because it takes people a while to find where to raise their hand. So the rest of you, please raise your hands in the audience if you want to extend the meeting, and if someone would please count those. John, you want to count the people in the room? Only one hand, not both. Okay. Okay. So all those not in favor of extending the time, please raise your hand, and we'll let the folks online put your hands down, please. Because now we're going to ask people who do not want to extend the meeting to raise their hands. And we're going to end at 9 o'clock if this. Okay, it looks like this motion has passed. So we're going to extend this meeting to 9:30 tonight. So as a result, I would like to call on, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Catherine. I have a question for the officer, Kang, K-A-N-G. I have a question for Officer Whitaker. I'm a Vashon resident and also a small business owner in town. And recently we were robbed, and I've heard of several other break-ins and robberies in town just in like the last 3 weeks. And I guess my question is, you know, I know there are 2 sheriffs and 2 cars on island 24/7. However, I do notice them parked away, like in the woods or like in parking lots or like in front of views, instead of patrolling the neighborhoods and town, and possibly parked in front of, you know, Island Center Forest, or just having a presence, I feel like would help deter some of this crime and other bad things that happen. You know, I've also heard rumors that, you know, the deputies like the Vashon shifts because it's, you know, nothing really ever happens here and they like to have a chill day, or I mean, I don't know how true that is, but you know, could we enforce that to happen more often, to have a presence on island, especially in the hours of when the ferries are not running, to maybe have them just park their cars in town?
Thanks, Catherine. That's a pretty reasonable request, and that's one I would expect of my local police department where I live. I appreciate that. Yeah, as far as quote chill, chill is relative. So I suppose compared to their white center call volume and running around in Burien, I suppose Vashon is a bit of a chill, even if you're doing good work. But me as a leader, and our culture that we want to establish is not that it's some kind of vacation out there, and it really, I assure you, is not. It's slower for sure than what they're used to when they're working the mainland, but most of a supervision's idea, that the values that we're trying to get out there are that enables them the bandwidth and the time to dig deeper into what they do get. So it's not a matter of sitting out there hiding behind a tree and not being engaged. It should be them engaging with the 911 call they get that night, spending hours on it if they need to, and really sinking their teeth into it. So that's the ideal value of kind of what I would like to see out there. I'm not out there necessarily to light fires under their cars and make sure this happens, but it is my job and my responsibility to make sure that work ethos is there with those deputies. I have a lot of faith that there's a lot of deputies whose heart is in it and are doing the right thing out there and are being present. But I also won't be so silly as to think that no one you would ever get one by me and possibly sit and not do the type of work that I was hoping they would do. So I would be glad to continue the press to enforce that kind of, like I said, work ethos for them out there. And if the visibility makes you more comfortable and you think that has a deterrent effect, which I agree, personally I do. I like seeing police cars. I think shenanigans go down when police cars go up. So the least you can do is park a black and white in front of my house when things are happening, so they will happen less. If we can't put handcuffs on people, at least we can show the flag. So yeah, like I said, Catherine, I'm totally with you. So let me take that back and light the fire again and just say, you know, guys, if you're going to enjoy the scenery, the kindness of the people, the pleasantries of working out there, it comes with the cost of sinking your teeth into what does happen. So I think part of that is getting them out of the station and getting the cars visible. And I see some nodding heads over there. And I appreciate that, because some people believe that Vashon, or some people in Vashon, wish they never saw the police. They want to pretend like they don't need the police because, you know, police represent kind of a force structure, and they like the idea of them being hidden away. But I think there's enough voters and citizens out there that understand that line between a presence of police force and still being compassionate and being really more of a social worker than a law enforcer. So I'd be glad at seeing all the nodding heads. I'd be glad to get more black and whites downtown for you and try to increase the value of them being visible. So I appreciate that, and I'll take that back. Over.
Thank you very much. So next, I'd like to hear from Amy Dreyer. Amy, you had your hand up for a long time. Come on, ask your question.
Hey, thank you so much, Diane. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up, Catherine. I'm glad you're there. And I wanted to follow up, Sheriff Whitaker, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I think everyone really appreciates having a channel with the Sheriff's Office and having ability to, you know, talk directly. And I did want to, sort of on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I am the director of the Chamber of Commerce, and I have had a couple businesses approach us, and I heard there was another break-in last night, and that makes the break-ins that I know of 5 in the last few weeks. And most of them were uptown. This recent one was actually down towards Center. So I just wanted to open up a public dialogue, because there may be folks that I haven't heard from yet, businesses we haven't heard from, just sort of about strategies, how we can work with the Sheriff's Office. It looks like we got a little mini crime wave going on here. What are some strategies we can deploy, you know, quickly and effectively, including increased presence and visibility, but wanted to open a dialogue so that the businesses felt safer. We got some strategies going on, and we have a good open dialogue with the Sheriff's Office.
Let me jump in real quick. I don't want to step on anybody else, but I'll throw this out there. In addition to the patrol deputies, we have an unincorporated King County detective. So you're still getting detective services for those longer term trend-based problems. So there's a guy named Detective Todd Philbrick who will occasionally come out to the island to work, you know, more complex felony level cases. But it's not just the patrol guys who are kind of churning and burning out there. So if we can kind of see trends and these felony level burglary type of crimes, where they're happening, times and things like that, I just wanted to let you know we have a couple more brains on the case than just mine and the guys in uniform. Just to let you know, your tax dollars are covering that as well. He's also balancing other districts, but if you guys put together, you know, any ideas or any concentrations or priorities that you wish we would shift to, we're certainly all ears, and we can maybe shape those up. So I'll go ahead and shut up now.
Okay, I appreciate that. I do appreciate your time, and you know, we do have a little bit of an uptick here. It's unusual for it, so for sure we will continue to talk on our end, and yeah, maybe we can get some written stuff going on. But I do, you know, on behalf of the businesses, I want to make sure that we're coming up with some really good strategies to address stuff. So I appreciate your time and the ability to collaborate.
Yeah, one thing that's been solving a lot of cases is those surveillance cameras that are getting cheaper by the year. I just would throw out, just as a community awareness thing, if you can hit one of those at a Costco or an Amazon or whatever, they're getting cheaper and cheaper, and we're solving a lot of cases catching getaway folks, cars, vehicles, license plates, just to have a little ring cam type of thing. I mean, I don't want to turn your neighborhood into a police state or anything, but I just wanted to let you know that we have been having a lot of luck with police showing up and saying, do you have cameras? Yes, here's the thumb drive, bam, and it has led to some closed cases. So just to speak a little bit of praise for cameras. Over.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who is the next person who had a question in the room? I think it was Terry Sullivan.
My name is Terry Sullivan, and I'm a member of the Equity, Social Justice, and Inclusion Committee of the Community Council, and I'm also a member of the Affordable Housing Committee. And 35 years ago, I joined the very same Affordable Housing Committee and went on to be one of the founders of Vashon Household, where I served 17 years as a board member. And it does trouble me to hear Rose Ballin members having the fear and anxiety that you're having here now, because Rose Ballin and Joy Goldstein and I were probably the three biggest people that pushed for that CLT to happen so that you people would have a home. And that was, you know, so it troubles me that there's this problem. But I think as you heard Tanya here, those people are not all the same, you know, and Tanya will be the first one to tell you that there's a lot of people that are homeless that have drug problems, they have emotional problems, they have mental problems. And the thing that they need is social services. They need care. And the thing is, you know, that's what we're trying to say is, well, the police shouldn't deal with, that's not their thing, it's the social services. But we don't fund the social services. They're understaffed, they're underfunded, and they're not doing the job. You know, so what happens is we as a community have to step in and get to know these people, get to work with them, bring them along, get their trust, get mutual respect happening. And, you know, we got to approach each other because this is a community problem. We all have to deal with this. You know, and I know it's scary. It's all, you know, when Tanya came to see me about a month or two ago, you know, I have to say I had this feeling, oh my God, you know, homeless people, you know, this is, you know, we've been dealing with this forever. Nobody has an answer. What, you know, and it was like getting ready to dig a 10-foot hole, you know. And then I thought, no, you know, this is happening right here. These are people that live in our community. They're just like, you know, all of us here, and we should have love and respect for each other, and we should take care of each other. And I know they say that in the homeless people, generally, if you have a good family relationship, you're not homeless. You know, people get taken care of if they have somebody that loves them, you know, they'll take care of them. It's the people that don't have anybody love them to take care of them that are out there. And, you know, so it's really something we have to get over. We have to get to knowing each other, caring about each other's problems, helping each other out, and we can get past this.
Thank you very much, Terry. Okay, Amy, could you put your hand down, please? Evie Horton would like to speak.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm so glad to speak after Terry, with whom I've been serving on the Affordable Housing Committee. But my comment or question might dovetail more strongly with Amy and Catherine's recent comments. In the spirit of connecting with our neighbors, I would like to suggest that the sheriffs get out of those patrol cars and onto their feet, walking around and looking people in the eye and introducing themselves, you know, just turning off the vehicle, not idling it, not polluting, making themselves known in a way that is, when you walk a place on foot, you see detail that you don't see when you're in a car. And I think it would be a lovely way to get to know the community and for the community to get to know the folks from the sheriff's office. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
comment
fair.
on that?
And that's been the proposed model of community policing for years. And that's something I can push forward in my, you know, encouraging thing as well. We were out there for the Strawberry Fest. No one sat in their cars. We were out there meeting people out there, just, you know, walking up and down that gorgeous street and talking to people. And I really felt like I was like, this is kind of the policing that, you know, we kind of need out here, at least every once in a while, because it just felt really good to see the guys out there walking and talking. So your point is totally fair. Yeah, I'm embarrassed if you only see cops in cars. So I will take that forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have to end it now. Do you have a question, Ben?
Sure, if I may. I just want to. Oh well, geez. Okay. So I don't live in Rose Ballin. I live just down the road. on 103rd, closer to Sawbones. And so I wanted to, I hear the people who are from Roseball and their concerns. And just a quick anecdote, we have a couple acres, and my 11-year-old daughter just a couple days ago came to me and said, "Daddy, there's people living on the back of our property." And in our situation, I did not call the sheriff. I left the man a note. We wish you well. It's time to move on. You have 24 hours. Please don't make me call the sheriff. And he moved on. And a shout out to Interfaith Council for the homeless who came and talked to the guy and helped the man move on. But I also wanted, I hear Tanya, is it? Insofar as I'm part of this council, I want to make sure that we hear from the Regional Homelessness Authority. My understanding is that they might be able to connect folks to services, because I don't think it's not a sustainable situation. And I don't think that necessarily more police cars is going to solve it. And I don't think necessarily that more patience is going to solve it. But there has to be something that happens. And it's not sustainable for the folks who are living unhoused, and it's not sustainable for the people who are living in houses nearby. And so I want to make sure that we get the Homelessness Authority here and try to start a really significant conversation, figure out what it is that triggers their services, and how we make that happen sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. We're going to do that. So it's on my list to bring the King County Regional Homelessness Authority here for a meeting. And you'll all be, if you want to know when it's happening, sign on to get to be on the mailing list. And then you will get a notice of when the meeting is happening, when they're going to be here, and the agenda, et cetera. So please sign on to our mailing list. And you can, every people who are here tonight, you can put your name on that mailing list request over there. And we'll work on this. We are creative, compassionate people, and we get amazing stuff done on this island. So we're going to work on this for sure. No, I'm sorry, we can't have any more comments. Yes, Tanya is starting an organization, a nonprofit organization, and she's looking for people to help her. At this meeting tonight in person, Tanya had a handout that she passed around about this organization she's starting. I will put that in the minutes of this meeting and on the website so that other people who aren't here in person can see what she's doing. Okay. No, I have to end. We have to move on. There's forest fires happening, folks. So that is really important. And that's the next thing on our agenda. Mike Lasecki from King Conservation District.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Okay, so Mike, thank you very, very much for joining us. I'm sorry we're delayed, but as you can see, it's a very, very, very important topic to this community.
Absolutely. All right, can folks hear me okay in the room and online?
Yes.
Great. All right, I am going to ask to be able to share screen.
Mike, so that you can share your screen. Okay. There you are. More, make co-host. Here we go. You should now be able to share your screen.
Okay, great. And I'm sharing. All right, can folks see my screen? Title of my presentation? Excellent.
Absolutely.
Okay, everybody. Well, I've prepared a short, aiming for 10-minute presentation because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions. from folks in the audience, online. Besides myself being here talking about wildfire, we also have a couple folks from your Vashon Island Fire and Rescue. Chief Vinci and Division Chief Davidson are both here, and they're going to be available to help answer questions after my presentation. But I'll jump right in. Quick personal introduction. My name is Mike Lasecki. I work at King Conservation District, where I am the Wildfire Preparedness Program Coordinator. I've been working at the local conservation district for about 8 years. As a forester, I have a background in wildland firefighting, as well as doing some prescribed fire-related forestry work and ecological restoration. And the purpose of my presentation tonight is really to share accurate information about wildfire and wildfire risks that directly applies to all of you, residents of Vashon and Maury Islands and your communities. And it's my hope that by sharing this information tonight in my presentation, all those attending or viewing this presentation will feel empowered to take additional actions that will reduce the risk of wildfire, damaging your homes, your communities, and threatening human lives on the island. So, real quick overview of what I'll be covering tonight. Going to be talking about understanding wildfire and wildfire risk, understanding how to mitigate wildfire risk, and then I'll be closing with sharing some information about the services that are available to all Vashon residents through my wildfire preparedness program. So to start with, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking to y'all using the graphic I have currently displayed here. And what this graphic is going to help me do is to sort of explain some different levels of how wildfires start, spread, and sort of what we can expect in our region when it comes to wildfire and wildfire occurrences. So we're going to start in the lower left corner, that red triangle. You can see it's labeled as flame. And each of the sides of that triangle represents the things that have to be present in order for a fire to start. In order for a flame to spark and burn, you're going to need fuel, you're going to need a heat source, and that heat source is really what's going to start the fire. So you can think of that as, in the context of a wildfire, a match being lit, a cigarette butt that's hot enough that when it lands on a fuel, it starts it burning. A hot exhaust pipe on a car that pulls into tall grass. That's your heat source that's hot enough to start a fire. And then the third element you're going to need is oxygen. We're here on Earth, lots of oxygen around us. So those are the three things we need for a fire to start. Next triangle, the orange one, the wildfire behavior triangle. So this one, each side sort of describes the element that is going to influence how a wildfire spreads, or how a wildfire, once it's started and is burning, is going to behave. Is it going to spread rapidly? Is it going to start and just sort of burn and go out? So you'll see a familiar element, fuel. We need fuel in order for a wildfire to sustain itself. It has to be consuming some kind of fuel. And so that is, for us in our area, any kind of forest vegetation that's dry enough to burn. It could be our homes. It could be a pile of wood. It could be anything that fire can start and burn. Topography. This is basically the lay of the land. And this is an important influence on wildfire, because once a wildfire starts, if it's like a steep slope, wildfire is going to want to climb that slope. Fire will spread more rapidly. It will have a longer flame length. So basically a bigger fire is going to occur as it moves uphill, because it's going to heat the fuels in front of it. It's going to create an updraft of air, which will feed it with more oxygen, which should sound familiar, things that we need for a fire to sustain itself. And so topography is an important element. But the most important element when it comes to wildfire behavior and our wildfire behavior triangle is weather. Weather is sort of the most dynamic and sort of influential element that's going to have an effect on what a wildfire looks like, how fast it's going to spread. really how dangerous will a wildfire be is really dependent upon what the weather situation is. You can think about this in sort of like the near term, like, has it been very hot? Is the air very dry? And then the most important sort of weather phenomena or sort of element that really is like the most important thing is wind. Like, what is the wind situation? Is it, you know, just dead calm? Or do we have very high velocity, intense winds, intense wind gusts? So those three things make up our wildfire behavior triangle. Last triangle I'm going to talk about, the green one, top right corner, fire regime. Fire regime is basically sort of the larger scale, what you can think of as for a given region, say Western Washington, which includes Vashon Island, there's going to be a sort of dominant pattern that occurs with wildfires, sort of their frequency, their size, how they start. These are the elements that make up a fire regime. And that fire regime is based on, well, what's the natural vegetation for that given region? For us, vast majority of the vegetation that's available that feeds a wildfire is going to be our, you know, lowland forests, conifer forests that we are all familiar with and love. Climate is also a very important factor when it comes to the larger scale pattern of how frequent, how large are fires in a given region. And climate is different from weather in that, you know, climate is more about seasonally. What's it look like? Here we have a wet season, you know, come October through, you know, maybe May, it's pretty wet. You know, it's, you know, we can sort of on an annual basis, we can kind of depend on, we're going to have very wet conditions. Come summer, we get a dry period, not a lot of rain. It's kind of what we're experiencing now. So climate of a region is going to influence the frequency, size of fires. And then the last element of that final triangle is ignitions. And ignitions for this triangle is really talking about what's causing fires to ignite, how frequently do ignitions occur. And you can kind of break this into two buckets. One, the most common sort of cause of ignitions nowadays is really people, humans, the activities we do that can cause a fire to start. And then the natural occurrence, the natural phenomena that can cause ignition, which would be lightning. Our area, we don't get a lot of lightning started fires. The vast majority of them come from humans, our activities, things that we're doing that cause a fire to start. Eastern Washington, different fire regime, many more ignition caused, lightning caused ignitions. That affects what their fire regime looks like. They have way more frequent fires than we do in our region. And part of that is because of the source of ignitions. Very dependent thunderstorms, lightning ignitions occurring every single year, every like summer into fall. But all right, so that's sort of what I wanted to cover in terms of talking about these different elements. Now, let's zoom in and kind of look at Vashon and kind of talk about some of these elements of these different triangles. So starting with that first triangle, the red one, fire starts. Do we have fire starts on Vashon? Well, I recently asked Vashon Fire and Rescue to share with me some of their records. And what I pulled up here is basically a snapshot of what they shared with me over their past 2 years. And I just picked May through October because for our fire regime, that is the time period where conditions are such that an ignition could lead to a wildfire if the weather conditions are right. And I'm just going to zoom in, highlight this bottom 3 months of 2023. So in August, according to the records that Vashon Island Fire and Rescue shared with me, they had to respond to 4 different fires. Basically, you know, someone called them and they had to show up and they put out a fire. So basically that's an ignition. That is the possibility of a fire, a small one, being able to grow into a larger wildfire. So we know for a fact, and kind of looking through, you know, those previous months and last year, fire starts happen on Vashon. Vashon Fire and Rescue is responding and putting them out. So let's think about another element of this. This one, what I've put up is basically long-term outlook for the rest of the year. National Weather Service does this for all the firefighting agencies. They basically have their meteorologists sort of predict, hey, what's the remainder, what's the next couple months going to look like in terms of risk of wildfires? And if you look in the upper left, that's August. Washington, the entire state is in red. That's basically their weather service is indicating that there's an above normal chance of significant wildfire potential. Basically, there's a higher risk that a wildfire is going to start and spread across the entire state of Washington. Upper right, September, same situation, above normal chance of wildfire. Bottom left, October, Western Washington, still above normal chance of wildfires occurring in our area. November, it finally goes back to normal. So basically what this represents that I'm displaying, this is sort of weather and climate, those elements of those fire triangles. And what it's telling me in looking at this and what you should be getting out of it is, yeah, for the remainder of the summer through October, our weather conditions, our climate is predicted to be drier, hotter, not much rain, and that's going to increase the chance that if one of those little fires that we saw is occurring on the island could lead to a wildfire being able to start and spread, and maybe the local fire district isn't able to put it out in time, so you don't hear about it. Okay, next one. This is a big map, the entire county. My apologies, my legend's not the best, but basically that red splotches that you see going across the entire county, and that is covering pretty much the entirety of Vashon Island and Maury Island. That red color is indicating what's called the wildland urban interface. And what that wildland urban interface means is basically these are areas where we have vegetation, in our case, it's forest vegetation, that could sustain a wildfire. You know, it's fuel for that fire behavior triangle. We have fuel on Vashon for a wildfire. And besides that, the interface is also indicating the fuel is there, but there's also, very importantly, people there. People are living in close proximity to that forest vegetation that could burn. And that's why in the eastern half of the county, you don't see any red, but that's all forested. That's national forest land, that's industrial forest land. But the big difference is there's not communities, there's not people living in those areas. It's all forest land, essentially. So basically what, this map is showing and what I'm trying to get across is there's fuel, there's vegetation on Vashon Island that could sustain a wildfire. So that kind of begs the question then, okay, so we've got flame ignitions. We've seen that Vashon Fire and Rescue is responding, putting out little fires. We see that the weather is hot and dry. We've been experiencing that. It's going to continue to be hot and dry, probably through October. And what's the deal? No wildfires. I haven't read about any wildfires on Vashon. This is where if I was in person to be more interactive. But basically I'll answer the question for you. Why aren't we seeing wildfires on Vashon? We got all this fuel. We got hot, dry conditions. We know fires are occurring. What's the deal? Number one, your fire department is putting them out before they can grow. That's a big reason why you're not seeing wildfires. That's a major factor. Having quick response suppression to put out fires when they're still little before they grow, that's a big reason why we're not seeing wildfires on Vashon. And just in general in Western Washington, we don't see a lot of wildfires because our fire response is pretty darn good. And honestly, it's only getting better with the investments that have been made over the past couple of years. But a second really important factor too is the weather conditions we've been experiencing. Yeah, it's been hot and dry, but we really haven't had extreme wind conditions. We haven't had really intense wind events. And that is a critical factor, especially to wildfires in Western Washington. The tragedy that happened recently on Maui Island, recent past, the Paradise Fire, on the map, if you look in Northeast King County, you see a big yellow blotch. That was a 14,000 acre fire that happened last fall up near Skykomish. all those fires have a very strong thing in common, and that was high winds. Extreme winds are the critical factor. And so what that means for all of us who live in King County is through October this year, we really need to stay aware, stay vigilant, and be very careful when we do have sort of high wind events, windy conditions predicted, because that is the sort of critical condition that over the next couple months could lead to a wildfire event occurring on Vashon Island or in Western Washington somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to transition now from talking about sort of wildfire, understanding wildfire risks, to talking about more mitigation. And when I talk about mitigation, I think it's really important to understand that wildfires are a natural phenomena that happens in Western Washington, including on Vashon Island. Wildfires have happened in the past since time immemorial. They are going to happen in the future. And our native ecosystems, our forest ecosystems, including the forests on Vashon Island, they've really adapted to and evolved with the impacts of wildfire. And so what that means, you know, in reality is that, okay, if a wildfire was to start on Vashon and burn, and let's say it burned through, you know, a section of Island Center Forest. Post-fire, most of that forest vegetation, it's going to grow right back all by itself because that ecosystem has adapted to live with wildfire and the impacts of wildfire. Now, in contrast to our fire-adapted forests in Western Washington, there's us, people, our homes, our buildings, our vehicles, all the things we build and put in the forest that surrounds us. All those things, our homes, buildings, vehicles, communities, they are not naturally wildfire adapted. They're not going to grow back by themselves if they are damaged or destroyed in a wildfire. So the risk posed by wildfires we really should be focused on is the threat that fire poses to our homes, to our buildings, to our communities, and to people. And it's the choices that we make that are going to determine whether we become well adapted to living with wildfire, because as I said, they've happened in the past, time immemorial, they're going to happen into the future. It's the choices we make that is really going to determine whether we become, you know, well adapted to living with wildfire, or if wildfire remains a significant threat to our lives, our homes, and our communities. So if we're gonna, and you know, and this is the good news. I love talking about wildfire mitigation because there's lots of good news. We have really good choices we can make and really good actions we can take that are going to mitigate the risk posed by wildfire and will make us better adapted to living with it. So thinking about our homes, our structures, the image I have up right now, it's of a home. You can see it's being showered with all these embers, basically little pieces of burning material that get generated by the millions when there is a wildfire event. And these things, embers, the little tiny pieces of burning material, that is the greatest threat to any building, any structure during a wildfire event. You know, if those little embers were to land on, under, near, or be sucked into a building, that is going to be the most likely cause of the building actually igniting and being damaged or destroyed. And so the image that you're seeing is actually, it's a giant research facility where they basically have constructed a full house and they're just showering it with embers to take and see where's the vulnerabilities. And you can see, like, where do you see fire? It's right around the bottom of the home. They got vegetation right up against the side of it. There's things in the gutters that are flammable. All those embers are catching that on fire. And so, like, that's where the risk is. That's what we need to mitigate. And we got lots of good options to do that. I don't have time to go into the details about those practices, but basically, like, if we harden our homes, if we harden buildings from embers, that's going to significantly reduce the chance that they're going to be damaged during a wildfire event. Focusing on the area 0 to 5 feet from the home is sort of the most important thing. From 5 feet to 30 feet away from the home, that's the next most important area. And then the last sort of area that, you know, we should be thinking about doing work in is 30 to 100 feet from the home. And like, that's the area. And on most properties, that's not, I mean, it's not easy, but it's not a huge task to really do the work and mitigate our risk around buildings and homes. So now we kind of blow it up from the individual home on your property. Let's think about what's the threat to communities. And this might be surprising, but the greatest threat in any community, and when I say community, I basically mean like groups of homes, your neighbor, you, everyone who lives on your street. What's the greatest threat in a wildfire to, you know, the protection or sort of damage or destruction to that group of homes, group of residents? The greatest threat is what you see in this image. It's the individual homes that didn't do the home hardening practices. And the reason that's the greatest threat is because, and this is especially true if you have a neighbor that lives nearby, let's say less than 100 feet away from your home is your neighbor's home. If one of your homes isn't hardened and it catches on fire during a wildfire event because an ember lands in your gutters or starts the vegetation on fire that's directly adjacent to your wood siding, if your home becomes entirely engulfed, you know, the whole thing catches on fire, that's the most dangerous fuel in any wildfire. A home totally engulfed is going to generate way more heat, way more flames, way more embers than just a fire burning through, you know, natural forest vegetation. And so if your home's nearby a fully engulfed house, there's a much higher likelihood that just from the heat generated, it's going to cause the neighboring home to also catch on fire. And this is what we see in sort of the most destructive wildfires. And most destructive, I mean, most homes destroyed, most lives lost. I think when it's all said and done, they do a complete investigation of what happened with the Maui wildfires, and this is true for Paradise too. You know, what destroyed most of the homes for Maui, I think this is going to be true. It is true for Paradise, is this home-to-home ignition. One home catches on fire, generates enough heat. At that point, it doesn't matter how well someone's upkept, you know, their home if it's within 100 feet. And sometimes this gets called a conflagration, basically firestorm. Structure-to-structure ignitions can wipe out entire neighborhoods. So the greatest mitigation to that risk is really getting as many people, everyone really within a community, to do the best practices around their individual homes. You know, we're only as strong as the weakest link if we're in close proximity to one another. If you're on a property and you've got acreage and it's just your structure and no one, and, you know, within 200 feet of you, you're kind of an island in terms of like, you can just worry about your property, do all the best practices. But when we start getting close proximity between buildings, it's really important that everyone's kind of pulling their weight, rowing together, making sure we're all doing best practices. Here's just a depiction. I use this a lot in my work. This is a visualization of 0 to 5, 5 to 30. These are the most important areas. This is where you're going to have the impact on reducing the risk to your home. And honestly, if you do the work, also in your community. Now, the final thing I want to talk about in terms of mitigation and sort of threats that are posed by wildfire have to do with people. You know, that's the ultimate goal, or to me, that's the most important goal, is we're doing these things, and, you know, the highest priority is always protect human lives. And, you know, really the threat to human life from a wildfire is human lives being in the way of wildfire. Firefighters are going to do their best to suppress a wildfire, but evacuation really is the most important mitigation action you can take if our goal is to protect human life. there's a wildfire that occurs, you really need to be paying attention. You need to be aware of what the evacuation orders are. And what I always say is, like, if you can leave early, leave early. Because that's what it's going to take to protect human life in the event of a wildfire. We need effective, efficient, early evacuation of anyone who's possibly at risk of a wildfire sort of burning towards them and where they live. And, you know, for evacuation stuff, it can be really challenging because it's something that, like, there's things you can do. We all have a personal responsibility. We can prepare that go kit. We can sign up for the King County alert system and have our phone on us and sort of know what to do by educating ourselves. But this is where I think there's a great opportunity on Vashon Island, because there is so much community involvement. There are so many great community-based organizations. Every year I hear about the great work that your guys' communities are doing around sort of responding to earthquake emergencies. I think there's a great opportunity to do similar work around wildfire and wildfire evacuations. Being an island, it's definitely a more challenging environment to be planning for and executing evacuations in the event of a wildfire. So I guess I would just plug that, you know, whether it's this group or others that you're involved in, it's something I would love to see happen, and I'd be happy to support groups that want to work on evacuation planning. All right, I'm going to transition really quickly just to talk about the services my program provides. So,
Mike, I just want to let you know we're totally running out of time for your talk, and
okay,
we really need to move to questions, because otherwise people won't even be able to ask you any questions.
Perfect. Okay, skip all that. Go to the website. There's forms there in person. There's a link in this in this PowerPoint. I'm sure it'll get sent out. Go to that, ask for my help. I'll walk around your property with you, help you out. Questions?
For Mike, stop your screen sharing so we can see people raising their hand on Zoom.
Got it.
That would be great. Okay, and all right. Questions for Mike? Yes, Art Chippendale.
Thanks, Mike. That was great. So my question is, we have a lot of invasive ivy growing up our fir trees and our cedar trees. And I've seen what it does to the tree. It basically sucks all the life out of it, and then it dies. And then the branches and even the tops of these trees come down on things. So it seems to me that that poses a real wildfire issue. And should the county or some agency perhaps help us to take care of that?
Just from a forest health perspective, it's always good to remove invasive species. King County Noxious Weeds has great resources to sort of how to effectively control ivy. In terms of it being a wildfire risk issue, my answer would be it depends on how much of a concern it would be. Is going to depend on how close it is to a structure. Because again, at least from my perspective, the most important thing is reducing risk to homes, communities, people. And so if that's in the middle of the forest, yeah, it's not good for tree health. But like I said earlier, heaven forbid there's a fire, it burns up all that. The trees, the vegetation is going to grow back. If it's in close proximity to a home, yeah, I would want to see it removed.
Right, because we see it. I see it up and down the highway and on some of the other streets as well. So, do you know who we should direct that to?
Whoever the landowner is, usually is, you know, the person that kind of has the management authority to go after and remove stuff like that.
Okay.
So it depends on where it's located.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not seeing any hands on Zoom and not seeing any hands here. Oh.
if you have ivy growing up your tree, if you cut the ivy at the base, just sever the vine going up the tree, the ivy on the tree will die, and it'll help stop it from spreading. When it's dead, it might be more of a fire hazard, but you can kill it by just severing it. Just cut it.
Thank you. Okay, well, we don't have as many questions as I thought we were going to have. Mike, thank you so very much. We will be sure to put contact information. I have had King Conservation District come out to our property and give really wonderful guidance as to what we really need to do to try to make our property and our house safer. Oh, David has a question. Go ahead, David. You're muted, David.
Have you been working with the emergency preparedness group on Vashon for evacuation for fire hazards?
Yeah, great question, David. No, I haven't. I got contacted by someone from that organization, and I shared with them what I thought was some good starting resources to, kind of get that ball rolling. But I am more than happy and available if that group does want to do some work. I'm happy to be a consultant and support any way I can. And then I'll just respond to your question in the chat too, David, because I just saw that. So the education that we provide to the public about defensible space around homes, I can give community presentations. So I'm doing this to like a big group. But if you wanted to organize like a neighborhood, I can give presentations to neighborhoods. I do one-on-one site visits to properties, and I'll do a risk assessment with the landowner. And then we also have a cost share program to help people implement basically the best practices around their home. So that, in a nutshell, are the different services and support we provide.
Yeah, because I think people on Vashon are used to moist summers and low fire hazards. And with global warming, it's changing. And so we really have to take this into account now.
Yep. Yeah, Vashon's a high priority area for me. I don't live on the island, but I am regularly coming out and doing risk assessments and giving community presentations. So hope to be on the island again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Their properties. Okay, next on the agenda, we have committee and board updates. The Affordable Housing Committee. I've been attending those meetings, and I'm going to speak for Morgan, who couldn't make it this evening. We're looking for a new chair for that committee. Morgan's been serving for quite a while, and he's going to move on to other things. So if people are interested in really helping out affordable housing, particularly accessory dwelling units, and also community land trust efforts, those things that Vashon Household is not addressing, because Vashon Household's doing it, we don't need to. So please keep that in mind if this is an interest of yours, and please find out about that committee. It's mentioned on the website, and you can join the committee and attend meetings. Our next meeting is Wednesday, September 13th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. You can send an email through the website or to me, Diane Emerson at yahoo.com, if you're interested in attending, and you'll get a link because it'll be a Zoom meeting. And the Affordable Housing Committee would like for you to help affordable housing on the island by attending the upcoming fundraiser for Vashon Household this coming Saturday at Dig Deep from 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. Okay, so anything we can do to help make more affordable housing on this island will certainly help with the homeless situation, the unhoused situation. There will be fun and music and entertainment and a silent auction and great food. And I'm offering 2 hours of custom tree pruning guidance as a silent auction item. Okay. Post Office Committee, Jim Garrison, I haven't been able to reach him. I don't think he's here. So we will move on. I'm sure this is an issue that will pop up again when Christmas time comes around. But right now, things are going pretty smoothly at the post office. Equity, Social Justice and Inclusion Committee, Jessica Anakar. Jessica, would you like to share something there? Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay, Justin, we'll get to you next after Jessica. Okay, thanks. Jessica.
Social justice, continuing to work on community outreach, as well as working to organize the September 21st candidate forum currently. That's all for now.
Okay. And Justin Hirsch is here to talk about the ferry situation. Thank you for joining us, Justin.
Yes, you're welcome. And I did get your voicemail. Sorry, I got a little late. I'm just going to be real brief today. Most important thing to say is that the Vashon Ferry Advisory Committee is going to be meeting this Wednesday, August 23rd, 7 p.m. at the Land Trust Building. There's also a Zoom link online on the chat. That same link was published in the Beachcomber this week. So at the upcoming meeting, we're going to be going over the current updates to Washington State Ferry Service Restoration Plan. Shocker, there's nothing too much new there. We're going to talk about a little bit about this phenomenon of ghost boats, this sort of extra additional unscheduled service that we're sometimes seeing. Talk a little bit about that. Hoping to have some responses from WSF on a question relating to the new lights at the Vashon terminal over the Southworth and Fauntleroy lanes. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Fauntleroy terminal project, the next meeting for which is scheduled way out into October. So that's the update. Meetings coming up this Wednesday, August 23rd, 7 p.m. at the Land Trust Building and online.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And next we have the Transportation Committee. Jake Jakobovich, would you like to share? Come on up and I'll give you the microphone so you can talk to people about Transportation Committee.
And so I chair the interim chair of the Transportation Committee, and King County has stated that mobility is a human right, and I totally agree, and I'm sure you all do. And the committee is looking for members. So far, I've got the fire chief, Matt Vinci, and from the chamber, I've got Tyler Young from the pharmacy, and I'm looking for some people that have other interests and stuff like that. You don't need to have a great extensive transportation background, because there's lots of things like, let's say, equity that doesn't really relate your knowledge of sight distance or road speeds or things of that nature. Just some of the things that this committee covers is DART, the Dial-A-Ride Transit Program, the Department of Local Services with right-of-way concerns, pedestrian pathways, bicycle pathways, equestrian pathways, automotive and truck regarding roads, shoulders, vegetation, sight distance, in other words, coming through an intersection, can't see the cars coming, road ends and the rights to the beach and stuff that can't be given away by the county, vacations, capital improvements by the county and the state, grants and things of that nature. It also deals with Metro Transit, which includes bus service, the water taxi, and rideshare van pool. And for the Washington State DOT, it involves grants like safe routes to school grants that we've gotten before, and other types of grants from the state. And paratransit is also a WSDOT concern, and the mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities. WSDOT's got grant and funding projects for that. So it's a great mission that benefits a lot of people. It's just not potholes and the tree blocking my view or something like that. So if you want to join the committee, you can either text me at 650-JAKE, or my email address, I think, is on the website, but that's vashon1@aol.com. And I'm sure that if you go to the VMCC website, there's a way to get to me also, or at least to Diane, and she can transfer to me. So Thank you.
Always just go to the website and send, the people back. Make sure it gets to the right person.
There's been a lot of concern from the businesses on the highway there about the back alley, which would be 99th Place Southwest behind the pharmacy. And so Tyler Young and the fire chief and James Norton and Dave from the copy shop and Pete Chorak, they all were looking to put some pressure on the county to repave that there because it's a lot of services for a lot of also elderly people and stuff that have to go to the pharmacy. And the road's really atrocious. So I met with John Taylor today and we walked that and stuff to point out all of these things before our meeting. So hopefully we get some return from that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jake. Now, we're having a board update. So we have, oh, David, you'd like to say something about?
Yes, I was going to say, Jake, you said you were interim chair. When are you going to take that on? You're just made for that job. It's just an important committee and it just seems that you're the right guy for it. So when are you going to just stop saying interim?
Okay, he can only be interim until there's enough people to vote him in as chair. And right
Okay.
now he's only got one other member, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, and that's a good segue to what's going on with the whole community council and the board. And this is a very serious issue that I want to talk to everybody about. Our board and we only have 5 people running this organization. Our website, our news, the information we send out, the meetings, public meetings every month for the last 3.5 years, and trying to get the word out to get people to come, bringing speakers in, managing this, organizing these hybrid meetings so that everybody possible can attend. We desperately need more board members. We have room for 12. So
Diane, could you speak up?
Workload.
Oh, that's better.
I'll use a different mic.
Okay.
No. Really close to me so you can hear it. Can you hear David? You're muted. I can't hear you.
A little bit, but you need to speak a little louder.
Okay, I will speak louder and closer for everybody.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So a lot of people don't know some of the accomplishments of this community council over time. And, you know, our island has no municipal government. We depend on King County and Washington State for zoning, public roads, laws, and enforcement of those laws. King County is massive and they deal with Seattle. So that doesn't leave a lot of energy and time and resources for unincorporated King County like us. John Taylor admitted that tonight. You heard him. So King County, it's difficult for us to find the right person to address a question or complaint, and it's easy for us to be ignored, let alone solve an issue that we're facing here. And that is why our island created the volunteer-run Vashon-Maury Community Council. In one form or another, there has been a community council to help address island needs for most of the last 100 years. Currently, we have 615 people on the mailing list and over 250 voting members. But we really need help. If we don't get more board members to help with this workload, we won't have the energy to address the unhoused issue. We won't even have the energy to run these monthly meetings. We might need to run them quarterly, which would be a really unfortunate situation. If this community wants to have a community council, and I think you're seeing the value of having a place, a forum, where we can come together as a community and discuss these issues and see how we can solve them together. If you want this to continue, people are going to have to step up. There have to be, because I can't keep doing it. It's not sustainable. I'm begging you, please join us. Okay. I'd like the board members to introduce themselves.
Yeah, Deborah Gusson, I'm vice president, and would echo Diane's plea for more members. It's actually fun. We've been having a good time getting out in the community and talking to folks lately. So really would encourage you. Give any of us a call. We'd be happy to meet you for coffee and let you know what it's about.
Hi, my name is John Affolter. I'm currently the treasurer, and I can't echo more seriously that in order for us to function in the way we could be functioning and we should be functioning, because there are things that we need to be doing and we just can't do them. So we do need to increase the number of board members, and I agree totally that this is fun. It's not like a big chore.
Thanks. My name's Ben Carr. I am just a board member at large, I suppose. I joined after I moved to the island a couple of years ago because I wanted to get involved in community, and I realized that there were a lot of community issues that that needed to be spoken about and discussed, and hopefully, solutions to be found. So it's been great. I would echo Diane's sentiment. I mean, Diane is working really hard to pull this all together, and many hands make light work. So I would hope to see more people join virtually. Hey, Jessica, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Jessica Anakar, board member. And yeah, I really believe that we as a community with the community council have the capacity to build the relationships that we need to build and continue to really advocate for our community in ways that will benefit for future generations. So I strongly urge anyone who wants to get involved, please reach out, please email us, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you all very much. Sorry for my lack of composure.
I want to ask Armin, why don't you apply for the board? You're very outspoken. You have a lot of things to say about this organization, and I think you'd be a good contributor. Why don't you apply for the board?
Well, it is open to everybody. So if Armin wants to, he can totally apply. To Jake's point back there, yeah, I had this question myself, as Jake knows. What accomplishments has the board had, right? And it turns out actually there's quite a number. Everything from, again, like motivating these the garbage cans along the road that now not only are there but get picked up, helping the that's there. Helping out the post office, getting raising awareness for that. There are a number of things. I mean, Jake, you're a bit of a historian about it all. You would know. Morley Island Marine Park. What about Ober Park? There was some, yep. Library in Ober Park, yep. There's been a lot, and so you can be part of it too. That's my pitch, my second pitch.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm looking forward to seeing those applications to be on the board flooding in to us, folks. Thank you very much. Now, next, candidates night. So we are organizing our next meeting in September is going to be all about the candidates who are running for election, local election. And we are going to bring them on together, and that will be our meeting next month, is to hear from the candidates that are going to be on the ballot that are up against another competitor. And this meeting is going to be held at the Presbyterian Church because the Land Trust does not want anything political in its space. So that's where we're going to be, same time, but a different place. Presbyterian Church. This is the Presbyterian Church from 7 to 9. And our facilitator will be Amy Dreyer from the Chamber. Okay, there we go. So now we have no new business, and I'm opening it up for any community updates. Is there anyone who'd like to provide an update from some aspect of the community that you're involved in? We have some time.
I just heard yesterday, I think the Rotary is doing their annual fundraiser to address hunger relief. And so it's ongoing right now. Anybody can participate. The Rotary for hunger relief. So they're raising money. They're going to donate most of it to the food bank, but to other organizations that help support hunger relief. You don't have to be a member of Rotary to participate. So go on the Rotary's website, and they've got a whole fundraiser going on. So I said I would mention it tonight. Yeah, it's going on right now.
Any other community updates? Anyone on the Zoom call like to offer something? Okay, here we go.
I retired in November from DOT, but this time of year, it's out to remind the public that school starts in a couple of weeks and to be a little more watchful on the road because there'll be a lot more kids out there at all sorts of hours and stuff like that. So,
thank you, Jake. Okay, now we are at the point where we have open discussion. So if you've been waiting to talk about something that's on your mind and you hadn't had a chance to do it, now's your chance. We have time. Whatever you want to talk about, bring it on. And we still have plenty of people here to hear what you have to say. Or have you been spent? Anyone? Going. All right. Well, you know what that means. That means that we are going to adjourn without having us to spend a whole extra half an hour because we don't have any additional discussion. People are kind of ready to go home, I think. It's been a very intense evening. What, is there a hand up? Oh, thank you. Okay, so there we go. Meeting's adjourned, and we'll see you in September for the candidates meeting at the Presbyterian Church.
Thank you, Diane. Good evening.